Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, one of the great things about running the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio is I get to interview some of my favorite authors. And today we have co-authors who are actually sisters, Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw. And Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw are the co-authors of the wonderful book, Do It Yourself, Akashic Wisdom. And they are the co-owners of CoventryCreations.com. This is their 30th year making intentional candles. You can find out more about Jacki Shaw and Patty Smith and their wonderful work at their website, CoventryCreations.com. Welcome, Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
So Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, I'm going to ask questions. And since you all are sisters, I know that you will just know intuitively who needs to answer. The term Akashic has been made popular by Madame Blavatsky. I hope I said that right. I know her, but I can now stumble over her name sometime. Madame Blavatsky, a theologian and mystic from the late 1800s, fascinating woman. Since then, many of us have been deeply interested in this subject and have explored it. Why do you all think we are so attracted to the Akashic Records?
I'll go first. I find that a lot of people are fascinated with the Akashic Records because they know that there's something more to it than getting a tarot card reading or their palm read. They enjoy both of those modalities, but maybe they intuit or they have heard that in the Akashic Records, there is more. There's more that's very personal for them, will help answer some questions that are very personal, and that possibly even some healing can happen.
So for our audience, will you all explain what exactly are the Akashic Records?
The Akashic Records are your soul's history. It is the place, kind of like the dream dimension. It's another dimension where you can access every thought you've had, every intention you've set, all the things that you've done, this lifetime, past lifetimes, your ancestors, energy from your ancestors, all of those things that exist. And they all exist without time, outside of time and space. And so what's amazing is that all of it's there for you. And thank goodness when you get there, you only get a little tiny bit at a time. Could you imagine getting it all at once? So you get a little bit at a time, just what you need. And then you can use it to make change or create your future. So it's a dimension. It's your personal other dimension.
So part of what I really appreciate about your book is there's a lot of people who've written books about the Akashic Records, but in their view, you've got to hire somebody to read the Akashic Records for you. And your book explains to people how to read your own Akashic Records, which I think is so cool because it's very empowering for people. So the title of your book is Do It Yourself, Akashic Wisdom, Accessing the Library of Your Soul. What do you mean by Library of Your Soul? And what can we expect to find in that library?
Well, I'll take this one. The Library of Your Soul is talking about all of the recollection, all of the history, all the things that the soul has recorded. And it is all there in your Akashic Records. So I'd like to say one quick thing about the soul is that everybody is a soul, and we have a body, and we have a mind, and we have emotions. So to say that our soul is recording that, we're recording it. It's our own experiences. And what was part two of that question?
what can we expect to find in the library of our soul?
Our stories, our history. It's objective. So when we go into the Akashic Records, we won't be getting our stories from our point of view specifically. It will be from how it all actually happened. So at times you could be surprised by, I don't remember it that way, but it'll feel right. It'll feel true. So yeah.
Okay, so going back to what I said, one of the things that I find so empowering about your book is that you're basically teaching people how to do this themselves for free, whereas other people, it's like, sign up for my course, it's going to cost you $10,000, and or you have to hire somebody. Why do you truly believe that people can read their own Akashic records?
Absolutely. We already are. Here's the thing, is that you already are accessing your own Akashic records more than you think you are. You get into your Akashic records when you have that amazing moment of insight where all of the pieces come together, when you go, oh, I get it. And when you understand things that maybe you hadn't understood before, so there's psychic imprints when you have a flash of, I think this thing is happening right now. And then there's Akashic imprints when you get the whole story. So when you get a whole story about something and you understand, not just the story you made up about something, but the whole story of like, now what, I understand how all this comes together, the giant aha moments. That's a step into your Akashic record. You stepped in, you stepped out, and you get the bigger picture of it. So we're doing it all the time. And we do it when artists do it all the time when they're building their artistic muscles, and then they get into the Akashic records and they get their inspiration. I'm not going to say only from the Akashic records, but they can get it from the Akashic records. They can connect with other artistic streams, and then they're getting, when they're in that stream of that creativity, they're tapping into Akashic records, and it's all just coming to them. So I started looking at that, and Patty was looking at it from a different angle. So we were both coming to it from different angles. And one day we started talking about it, and we went, oh, we're both doing the same thing. And we had both stepped into the Akashic records at the same time in front of each other, and we went, oh, I know you're doing this and I'm doing this. And we just started exploring it together and realized how easy it is to get in there, because a long time ago, when I was starting to be in my first healing studies, when I was learning from another person, I kept being told I'm an Akashic record reader. And I would say this to my teacher, and she goes, yeah, we all are. And I felt a little dismissed, and I didn't understand why she was dismissing it, because they were telling it to me like it was a really big deal. And so I would get it again. Well, you're in the Akashic records. And then I would get it again. You're in the Akashic records. And then one day when I was doing readings in Massachusetts, every reading, I was in the Akashic records, and it was so fast. Every reading I did was this brilliant, fast experience. And my clients were just blown away by how accurate and how fast and how crystal clear they were receiving the information. So, and Patty was there in Massachusetts with me. And so we started comparing notes, and she was talking about how she was having a similar experience. So we wanted to bring it to everybody. So we started teaching people, and it was fast and easy, and everyone go, oh, this is quick. Mm-hmm. And so we developed a system, and it works all the time.
So what's interesting, those of us who are professional intuitives, and I'm a medical intuitive healer, we all have personal practices. I talked to a client today in Trinidad, and she asked me, well, what's your spiritual background? Well, it's like I pray every day. And I also talk to my angels. But when I started using your method that you describe in your book, Do It Yourself Akashic Wisdom, it's a different quality of information. So can you explain for our audience, what is the difference? This is an interesting question. What is the difference between the quality of the angel information that you get from talking to your angels? Because I've been talking to my angels for years. and the quality of information you get from your Akashic records?
I love that question. So in the Akashic records, they work with you with where you are. So the quality of information is still going to be true, but it may come in a parable or a story, and they may help you get to a truth or a reasoning through those stories, or through those, we call them fantastical creatures, mythological stories, so that you can come to that moment that might have been difficult for you to look at, or even just say, that didn't happen to me, right? And it connects the two, the bringing you to this, it's like this kind of messaging, to you going, oh, I can relate to that because it did happen to me. I had a client who had a difficult childhood. There was a lot of abuse and a lot of neglect. And when she would go to her Akashic records, all she saw was aliens, 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 aliens. And I got it. I understood what she was doing. She was disconnecting from what really happened to her. And what's the scariest thing we think of is, aliens from outer space coming and abusing us. So yeah. So eventually, after a period of time, she said to me, oh, this is about my father. I said, yeah. So would an angel bring you to that? I can't say yes or no, but I know that in the records, they meet you where you are. It's loving and it's truthful, and they bring you to it in a way that you can tolerate.
Well, I've started including your methods in my own personal spiritual practice, in addition to talking to my angels, and it is different. Mm-hmm. Now, your book, Do-It-Yourself Akashic Wisdom, starts out with rules about working with your own records. Why was it so important for you all to include this information in your book so early on? And what are some of the rules that our audience may want to know about?
Go for it, Patty.
Okay, so there are rules in the Akashic records because the Akashic records are vast. They're huge, and they don't want anyone to get lost, to get into the weeds, or get into something that they really don't need to be looking at. Also, it's to protect you and it's to protect others. You can't just go in and dabble in someone else's Akashic records to maybe make an outcome in your life happen that you really are needing to have happen. So that's called manipulation, right? So we can't manipulate others. Also, there is a way to work with the Akashic records. You have to go in there with reverence, go in there with an intention, and go in there believing that something beautiful can happen for you. And Jacki, you've got more to add to that.
There's rules help us.
She's the rules lady.
Yeah. Rules help us create the boundaries, and so when we have boundaries, they're healthy to work within those boundaries to really create amazing things. When you have no boundaries and there's way too many options, it's easy to get lost. So like for instance, you can't go into someone else's records, and it's a rule. You can call it a rule, but it's more like a natural rule. So you can't go into someone else's records. You might think you are, but you're viewing them. So Catherine, right now, so we have our spheres of influence. So right now our records are touching you and mine and Patty's. And I could go into this moment in our Akashic records, and I can look and see how our Akashic records are overlapping and they're interacting. And I can touch your Akashic records and where they touch mine. And then I can kind of view your Akashic records and how they interact with mine. But I don't get to see all of them. I can't see your childhood, your future, your ancestors, your past lives. I may think I am, but what I am is I'm reflecting my own in there. So you really can't, not because you're not supposed to, you can't because you can't. Like I can't reach into your chest and pull out your heart. I can't because it's not physically possible. And plus it's just bad form. And so there's rules because it's like a natural rule of not doing it. There's also rules of you don't get too much information. And because it would be too much.
Mhm.
So that's one of the other rules. And there's other things like that we go into about how they're there to help you. You're not going to re-experience. One of the other rules is you're not going to re-experience trauma. You're going to view it like a movie. You're going to view it without emotion. So, and also no one can get into your Akashic records, just like I can't get into yours. No one can I can't get into someone else's. No one can get into yours. So if you need to heal an abusive situation, that abuser cannot get into your records. You may see them. You may see a representation of their energy, but their energy is not there. And that's a really, really big, important rule, is that these are yours and yours alone. This is where you interface with the divine. This is where you co-create with the divine. I call this the kind of like the playground of the gods, and where you get to go play with your creator, with divine beings, and where you create your world and your life, where your wishes and dreams, the seed stuff is here in the Akashic records, and then you can pull it down and decide what you want to do with it at the soul level. And this is so amazing, the amazing part about Akashic records. And so really no one else can be in there but you and your higher power. And that higher power starts with your own higher self. And that's some of the big rules that's really important. And again, it's not like rules because we decide to make them. It's rules because they're natural, universal laws.
And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors. And we'll be right back to listen to Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, co-authors of Do It Yourself Akashic Wisdom. So Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, co-authors of Do It Yourself Akashic Wisdom. Can you just give obviously we want to read your book and for more information on how to do this, but will you give for our audience just a rough outline about what is involved in reading our own Akashic records?
Well, when you want to go in and read your own records, you need to be in a really clear mind, calm, emotional state. You got to get ready for it. If you take a lot of worry and fussing and agenda, you're going to, create your own barrier to getting into your records. Clearing your heart chakra is very important because we do guide you to go into your records through your heart chakra. And so, yeah, prepare yourself and go in believing, like I mentioned before. And I think I lost the thread of the rest of the question. But
just a rough outline of how to go about reading our Akashic records.
Okay, we do have a technique that is in the book. Follow that. You can memorize it, or you can make a little recording for yourself, and that guides you step by step into your records. And once you get in there, make sure you have a question in mind so you don't end up just wandering around, because it can be, if you're a really visual person, it could be really exciting to be in there. And maybe the first time you go, just go to be there and don't worry about the agenda. But when you get in there, you're going to find that you are in a space. They've built it to make you very comfortable, to reflect you. It's going to feel really familiar. You're going to feel the love around you. If you're visual, you're going to see some nice elements, like a nice place to sit, and maybe a fireplace is going. You're going to see your records. They might be a library. They might be like Harry Potter in a room full of orbs. I had a client who saw a forest of trees, and every tree held some valuable information for her. So there's a lot of common elements, but allow it to just happen for you.
So I'll share for my audience what I've been doing following your methods. So first thing, I meditate. And when I meditate, I use a little mantra, and I just begin at my heart, because your work is about entering the Akashic Records through your heart chakra. And I use an affirmation. I invoke the light of the Christ within. I'm a clear and perfect channel. Love and light are my guides. And then I repeat that mantra through each of my chakras, going all the way from my heart up to the 8th chakra, down back to my 3rd chakra, down. And then I invoke the light of the place where I am. So if I'm at home, I'm invoking the light of my home and garden. And once I literally visualize my own light body, then I go into my heart chakra. And before I start, I usually write out a question that I'm wanting insight about. And then when I'm there, I walk up a ladder in my mind, and I see a door. And what's interesting to me is that since I've been doing your method, every time I look at the door to my Akashic Records, it reminds me of like grade school, where my guides have decorated the door, and there'll be sparkles on the door, or ivy on the door, but it always looks different every time. And then I'll open the door. And I remember the first time I did it, it was almost like my guides had thrown me a surprise party, and they were just so excited that I was there. And then I'll ask a question, and I'll have a journal. I'm awake and conscious, and I channel the information. And I'm using the prayer that's in your book. It's a wonderful prayer that you use to get into your records. And then when I'm done, I read the second prayer that's in your book, and then I come out and then go about my day. So am I doing it right?
Oh yeah, that is great.
I love how you prepared yourself. Yeah.
I love that. So one of the big things about going into your records, and there's, other than preparing yourself to go in, if you don't do that meditation and preparation to go in, it's going to be hard to get there. That's the big thing. And then coming out, getting back in your body and being able to go on through your day, not staying loopy and being in the headspace of being in your Akashic Records. Then all the stuff in between is a little subjective. Like, what do you want your experience to be? So we give you like a starting point, a roadmap of how to do it, our method, our process that we do. And it's really about getting the story. So having an intent when you go in, saying, I want to go in and find out what my Akashic Records are. That's a great intent for the first time. What do my Akashic Records look like? How do they work for me? That's always a fun thing to go in and just figure out. Then when you've gone in a couple times, figure it out, then you go, I want to go in and learn about why do I always bail when I eat pizza and eat a whole one, so why do I eat the whole pizza with extra meat? So then you go in with that, and you're going to go into the Akashic Records, and so you're going to get the story about the meat lovers pizza. And then when you're like, what's the whole story? Tell me the whole story about it. What happened in childhood about this? What is there past life pizza stories? Is there a contract I made with pizza? I love you, pizza. And when I was 6, I said I wanted to marry pizza. So I'm going to eat it all the time. Silly things like that. So it might not be silly. It might be very serious things. And so you get the whole story, and there's different ways to get that whole story. And then when you get that whole story, then you say, well, what's the fear around it? What are the different things that hold that story in place? And then what do I need to do to let that story go and rewrite that story? So then you start doing that process of backing it up and saying, how do I want to undo this or rewrite this or let it go? And then come out. So the process is, first you get the story, you understand why the story stays in place. Oh, and the biggest thing I almost forgot, this is the most important thing, forgive yourself. You got it. So when you're there and you forgive yourself of that story, forgive yourself of that lost potential, that's where that shame is. One thing I learned from a dear friend, Storm Sestavani, when we were talking about this, He said, shame is lost potential. They talk about that in the Kabbalistic teaching that he's gone through. Think about that. Shame is lost potential. And that's all that is. And it just takes a lot of that emotional charge out of that. And then you think about that potential that's lost and the potential you can now regain by letting go of the meat lovers pizza and moving on to something else and saying, oh, I don't need pizza like this. So, and then you can come out and then you do the healing work that your guides, because there's Akashic guides in there that are specific to the Akashic records, and they can take you through it. And your own guides are in there as well. And they can take you through and do the work.
And we're laughing about asking questions about pizza, but there are many people who have various eating issues, overeating, undereating, right? You know, eating disorders are very much a problem. And I find when I'm doing medical intuitive readings, a lot of times people, they had a past life where they were literally starving. And it's like, well, no wonder they just want to eat until there's nothing left, right?
Right.
So
it's interesting that there's a lot to that. And there's also, we could go on and on. I mean, I've done a lot of healing work in the Akashic records over around eating. I have a lot of issues around that myself. I've had my entire life. And what's interesting is, and I didn't find this until I got into the Akashic records, is the shame. I talked about the shame and the lost potential. There's so much shame around food that I was stuck in shame and that lost potential. And so it was stuck in a loop. I just wanted to share that it's powerful. If anyone's listening, play with that a little bit.
Yes. Now, what are some good questions for our audience who are like, okay, I'm going to get Patty and Jacki's book and I'm going to learn this process and read their wonderful prayers. What are some good questions to ask once you're in the Akashic records?
Well, you want to go in curious. You have something that you want to resolve, a challenge, a problem, a situation, and go in curious and keep expanding that question, why? So why? What's my motivation? Why am I doing this? Why am I in this situation? Why did the people in my life, treat me like that specific way? And what was I to learn from it? Our soul is having experiences. And the reason it's having experiences, the reason our soul is here on earth is to learn to master all the elements of the universe. And they are all demonstrated here on earth. So when you go in asking, what am I to learn here from this situation, you could take it from any perspective, any direction you want, and then start exploring so that you can kind of unpeel the layers of what you're going through. And as you peel that layer, you're going to come at it from a different perspective. And sometimes it helps to understand or ask why a little bit about the other, if there's another person involved. What was their motivation? What was I triggering in them that we're here together for a reason. We're learning something together for a reason. It could be a past life thing. It could be a balancing of karma, which we haven't even talked about yet. But when you know their story too, it helps open your eyes to your own behavior and your own decisions.
There's an important question that Patty asks a lot, and she asked this of me, and she tricked me in a session that we had together when she said, well, what did you gain from the pain? What did you gain from that? Because I was working through a traumatic experience, rewriting that, learning from that. And she said, well, there was a reward there. There was a gain that you had from hanging on to this. There's something that, a reward. And I was like, no, there wasn't. Yes, there was. And so even in the most horrible situation, when you hang on to it, not just going through it, when you hang on to a negative situation, there's a reward that you're gaining from it. And it might be an identity. You say, oh, well, I get to say this thing, or I get to feel victimized. I get to be put upon it. I don't have to have responsibility. So there are there are rewards that we don't necessarily think that we have. So that's one of the things, is what am I gaining from this? And the other thing that is important in there is that ask what's behind it. There's the why, because that's the other thing, why gets behind different things. But when I'm teaching this class and I'll say, and you go into your Akashic records, then somebody always says it's nothing but a black void in there. And I say, well, what's behind the black void? What's underneath? So reach up your hand, feel the string, feel the light bulb, turn on the light bulb. The light bulb doesn't work. Why doesn't the light bulb work? What is in the dark for you? What is, so again, that why, that what's behind it? What are you gaining from this? The who, what, where, when, why is very important, that inquisitiveness and the compassion of compassionate questioning. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid to see? What am I afraid to know? Am I ready for this? Do I need to step back?
Great information. And with that, let's take another break to listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors at UK Health Radio. Hang in there and we'll be right back with more wisdom from Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, co-authors of Do It Yourself Akashic Wisdom. So those of us who are professional intuitives may find the directions in your book easy to read. It's like, okay, I can read this and follow the directions. It's easy. What advice do you give your people who find it difficult to read their own Akashic records?
Get a buddy. Seriously, if you feel really blocked that you can't move forward on reading your own, get a healing partner. Patty's my healing partner. I have a couple other healing partners, and it's somebody that you trust that's not going to judge you, that's got enough skeletons in their closet. You have mutual destruction clause in your friendship, but that you can, that's going to also challenge you. That's going to say, no, there's something deeper. Wait, let's go deeper. And so healing partners are very important. So you can, and then you can say, well, oh, wait, I was seeing that. And I just thought it was my imagination. So having a healing buddy is really great. And then you go in together and you learn different things, experience different things together. Because it's hard when you, having Patty as a partner, I would see different things and I would doubt myself. And then Patty would say, I'm thinking, oh, there's this blue bike there. What's that about? And Patty would say, why do I sense a blue bike? And I would go, oh my God, you too? And then I saw that too. You see that? And then we get all excited. And then I go, does it have a bell? Yeah, it has a bell, and then we get all excited together. And then we can, then that energy, we it expands our abilities.
So, and at the beginning of this interview, we talked about how other people can't get into our own records. So when you have a healing partner, is this somebody that you debrief? Like, I went into my Akashic records and this is what I saw. So you share what you're finding. Is that how you use your healing partner?
Well, so now you've opened up your Akashic records to them, and I'm bringing my Akashic records up. So when I'm working with a partner, and I, or let's say I'm a healer and I'm working with someone else. So I'm working with you, Catherine, and I'll say, make a healing connection to you. And I'll have my guides connect to your guides, and I'll connect to your Akashic records. What we're doing is we're bringing your Akashic records up, and the Akashic record keepers are bringing information to me that I can work with. And so they're bringing it to me, or in what Patty and I call the Akashic healing room, the master room. And so they're bringing your records into the ones I have access to into there. And so it's like a Akashic Wisdom 201. but really how that, we don't really address that too much in the book, but I see it as they're bringing it up to me So when you have a partner, it's bringing all the information up so you can work on it together.
Right.
So if Patty and I are working together, I'm giving her permission to see stuff. So it's kind of like I'm bringing the book to you.
Yeah.
And I'm letting you flip through it.
Yeah. That's very much like my work as a medical intuitive.
Mhm.
I can't go in there without the person's permission. But once I'm there, I can read everything, the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, spiritual, right?
Right.
But it's really critical that I have that person's permission.
Yeah.
Now, when someone reads your book, what can we all expect to find in the records, the Akashic records, using your techniques?
Go for it, Patty.
All righty. So I touched on this a little bit. Every room is different, and it is kind of set up for your own comfort and your own familiarity. But some of the typical things that we've seen people experience over and over again was that there was this, I'm in this space and I have a sense of walls and floor underneath me, but there doesn't seem to be a ceiling, and I can almost see the stars up above. Often they report there is a fireplace, and that fireplace has a function. They see the records in some sort of form, trees or orbs or books. They always feel like there's somebody there with them that loves them. They always feel a lot of love. They feel very safe, usually, if they hadn't gone in with some predisposed fears. And then there's a lot of tools that are presented. Typically, they hover around a table and chair where the books or the records are brought to them for them to experience. There's some other tools that may reveal themselves as they're needed. Like we have this healing waters that some people see it as a hot tub, some people see it more natural, like a beautiful pond. And after discovering something about themselves and saying, yes, I want to change, they want to shift the energy, they may spend some time in the healing waters to release all the pain that has been stored in any way it is, release that into the waters out of their own physicality, out of their own soul or their own energy. There's something we call the cauldron, where we want to just destroy some record or something and throw that into the cauldron, and it's, returned to the universe. Lots of tools. It's a place of creativity that, like Jackie had said. And so if a tool is needed, it kind of pops up, and there it is. Here, use this. Look at it this way.
Personally, you'll also find your own personal soul parts. So we have, our soul is this amazing mechanism to, when we have traumatic experiences that we can't quite handle, it'll break off a little piece of itself to hang on to that traumatic experience until it processes it out, or maybe it gets stuck. You can find some past life stuff. You can find some fears packed in nice tight boxes in the corner. Of course, your records, I think you said that, Patty, and they can take the shape of books or trees or crystals or seashells or
yep.
Anything that when I had a client who described it, he described it as Superman's lair. It looked like Superman's lair with
Crystal Palace.
The Crystal Palace, like in the frozen tundras. So whatever it needs to be for you. It just all that stuff, and it reveals itself to you as you look, like the hallway of past lives. There's that just kind of reveals itself as you need it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you spend a lot of time teaching us about the soul and the way it can be affected by the things we think, feel, and do. Why is this perspective so important to us as we explore our records?
Well, as we mentioned before, that we are a soul, and the soul has experiences. And we also have a personality. So what we think, feel, and do really comes mostly from the personality. And we believe things, and we learn things from other people, and then that becomes a belief. We have our own thoughts, and we have experiences, and we react to that. And those all get recorded in the soul. And when we're in our Akashic records, we want more clarity on that, because that personality filter can change our perspective, can change the truth of the situation. And we stop learning because we can be stuck. We can say, this is how it is, and this is how it always will be, and amen forever. So when we go into the records, we go in as a soul, and then all of our stories are there, and we get this perspective that is more objective, more the truth. And then we have an opportunity now to say, oh, I see that more clearly now, and I do accept it. I do, and I want to change. And that also goes into the record of your soul and the record of the Akasha. And now you have become a little bit liberated from how before before you went into the records, and you come out with a new idea, a new perspective. And now when you're not in the records anymore and you're back to your regular life, you get an opportunity to apply that new wisdom and see if you can get it to stick. So yeah.
Here we are at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. A lot of the focus in your book is about getting into our Akashic records in order to heal. Can we expect to heal our physical body through these techniques, or is this work mainly for spiritual growth?
This work is really about spiritual growth. Now, I do find that there is physical results, but because our mind and our body and our emotions and our spirit are tied together, when one is out of whack, the other is out of whack. When our emotions are going down the tube, our body feels it. So when we get all this stuff into alignment, we can start to feel a physical result. Although I very strongly recommend that people see their doctors and their physical healers, because that is where some of that big work is being done. And then this is a great support system. When I was going through some big physical healing issues, I immediately started doing my healing work. I did the intuitive healing work. I did the Akashic work. I did the emotional healing work. I did all of the stuff to support the process that I was going through.
Now, many of us are curious about our past lives. And it does come up even with my medical intuitive readings, but I'm like, you've got so much stuff going on in this lifetime, do we really need to go back there? And sometimes you do need to go into a past life. How important do you think it is to look at a past life, and do you recommend it?
It can be very important to look at a past life, and you will be made aware of that when it's time to look at that. Just to go in willy-nilly to be curious, who was I in a past life? That is, that could be opening Pandora's box. You really don't want to do that. You don't know what you're going to find. And we're protected from looking at some of these things because we might not handle it. And there's no point, going into your Akashic records is not to re-traumatize yourself. It's to heal or learn something or do something to improve yourself. So, but there are times when looking at a past life will really help you understand why you are doing what you do that drives yourself crazy or creates, crisis, problem, pain in your own life. And that would be the only time that you need to look at a past life, and your guides will help you. They'll tell you, yeah, this is connected to the past life, unresolved. You're still not getting it. Let's look at it.
Right. I'm very practical in my work. It's like, well, we only go there when we need to go there.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you do need to go there, but sometimes you don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in your book, you also talk about spiritual beings we may meet in the Akashic records. So can we meet spiritual beings in the Akashic records? How does that work? Can we ask to meet a specific spiritual being before we go into the records? How does that all work?
Like I said, I look at it as the playground of the gods, because this is that interface space. So this is where your divine self, it works with your physical self on what you're bringing into this lifetime, and holds all of that memory of your soul's memory, all that stuff. And so your divine self starts to interact with the higher powers and divinity. So this is where you interact with a lot of spiritual beings. And so we've met some of our guides and who like to, and they're divine helpers, and some of them are more divine beings, and some of them are a little more earthly helpers, but they are really good Akashic record helpers. So there are some divine helpers that are know how to work with the Akashic records, and there's some that are like, see goodbye. That they're not as skilled with the Akashic records. There's some that we've worked with where they're like, wait, what are you doing? No, this is not our specialty. Our specialty is something else. So you can absolutely ask if you're akin to a specific divine being who you like to work with, and you say, can you meet me in the Akashic records because this is an easier interface, or I want to see if we work well together here. Yeah, but they might not work really well in the Akashic records with you. They might have a better space to work together, but there are ones that we talk about in the book that work really well in the Akashic records.
Yep, and that's where we met a lot of them. Yeah.
And can we also meet the souls of loved ones who passed over?
You would meet a representation of that soul in your Akashic record. They're not going to be in your Akashic records, or your Akashic, you would connect where your two Akashic records, like they meet up in that like Venn diagram. So where they connect, but they're really not going to be in your Akashic records. There may be a representative within like a divine representative of them. You could get messages from them from divine representations. Patty, you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, those the loved ones, those souls, those projections of those personalities are very controlled in how you experience them, and it won't be like you said, the actual person. It's a projection. I like to call them holograms because it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kids send a projection, but it's not really him standing there. So that's why I akin to that my experience of it.
It's not, and this is not a space for mediumship. So
yeah,
that's a different space.
Different space. So Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, co-authors of Do It Yourself Akashic Wisdom. Any final thoughts for our audience about how they can go about reading their own Akashic records? I'd like to hear from each of you because you both have such great wisdom.
Well, my advice for going into your records, and you don't have a record buddy, to remember that the Holy Ones work with you through your imagination. We have imagination for a reason. It's a gift, and use it. So don't waste your time doubting what you see or experience. Say, I'm experiencing this. Is this something I need to follow? And just use that instincts that you have, that awareness to everyone knows when they're right. Everyone knows when they're onto something. So have faith, believe in yourself, and put that doubt aside and just explore.
I like to say that the imagination is the language of divinity. That they use your imagination for a reason, and that's how great breakthroughs happen, is through our imagination. So go ahead and do it, write it down, record yourself if you can, if you're not going to feel too self-conscious, or write it down if it's not going to break your stream, your flow, your spiritual flow. I have done this, and Patty's done this, where we've recorded our own meditations to help get us in there, so we don't have to like go back to hang on, wait, what does it say? Okay. What does it say? That's hard to do. So go ahead and record. We all have our great smartphones. So go ahead and record your own self in getting into your own meditation, and just kind of do it and play with it. It's hard to get wrong. People ask me, I think I'm doing it wrong. It's really hard to get wrong because we go in and naturally do this all the time. It's just like, it's hard you can't dream wrong. So you really can't get into the Akashic Records wrong because they're yours and you do it.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guests today have been the sisters and co-authors, Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw. You can find out more about their wonderful work at their website, coventrycreations.com, and their book, Do It Yourself, Akashic Wisdom. And remember, when you trust yourself and access your own divine guidance, wonderful wisdom can be revealed to you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.